only spoken.
This is general plot.
We've spoken on the phone, by email a lot, but I've never had the pleasure. Good to see you.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Come, everybody knows everybody. I don't know
Small
anybody.
town, Gina. Small
It's the
town.
business.
You know what I printed out?
We worked a lot. We,
It's up to you.
walked with them, Annie's, we met with them for an hour and a half. Oh, I did, I've been meeting with them every day.
Oh, your name used to get.
Punch list stuff and things like that.
So it's 7 o'clock, but I guess we have to wait till 7:10
Why?
for the discussion at the King Street Jones
You
Meeting.
guys can talk about minutes.
We have the minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that we wait for the minutes, cause we have so many of them. But we have to wait till 7:10, so.
I don't have any minutes.
Which is fine.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Did you do the minutes? I did. Clarify the issue.
Have you found out who can, this is on the issue?
So I guess I'll open the meeting at 7:04. We're starting off, we have a 7 o'clock agenda item, administrative matters and minutes, so we're just gonna be looking at minutes. We're kind of backed up on the minutes.
We're gonna do that now?
Yeah, because we can't start until 7:10, so we might as well get rid of some of them. So the first ones I have are January 9th, 2018. And Gino, myself, and Lisa were here.
Mhm.
I was here for part of the meeting. Did you get a chance to look at them, Gino?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. You're okay?
Mm-hmm.
What's the, what was the date that we're looking at?
January 9, 2018.
55 Salver.
You want this copy, Lisa?
Did you have it all?
Should you?
Thank you.
I'll reach out to him. And I need to do some revisions to the content docs.
Yep.
What are we looking like at timing?
So do we need any more time to review January 9, 2018?
So I wasn't here.
Yeah, it was just me, Gino, and Lisa.
Okay.
Anybody want to move to?
Oh, we
I move to approve the minutes for January 9th.
Make a motion.
Calendar.
To
Second.
accept.
Yeah, we're not gonna make it.
You're seconding.
Oh, second.
Yeah. All in favor? Aye.
All in favor, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, aye.
I wasn't there.
That's fine. This is not the second.
The second? Okay. Next ones I have here are March 27, 2018.
I was not there.
It's just Lisa and myself.
Mhm.
You don't have, February 13th?
You should have it.
I don't know, that might have been approved before.
Don't have February 13th.
How's it going?
But maybe we did it.
Haven't seen you in a while. Hey.
That wasn't the plans, it's not this, that was that one, yeah, septic system. Say that. No, he is.
I need to. Okay.
Okay. 3.7.
I don't think I was here, they was here.
No,
Yeah.
but I
I
need
was
to
in
look
hospital.
at that again. And then we've got April 24th, and that is, again, Erin and Lisa.
That's it, I've got it right here. So it says under 720 continued hearing 12 Meadowbrook Road. Erin Healy asked about the refusal.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's a refusal.
Refusal is when you can't go any further.
Okay. I thought it was a typo.
Yeah, they probably hit the rock.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a problem.
Okay.
This line.
I saw that it's here too. She might be the chair of the ZBA. That might be why it says.
Okay, yeah, okay, you're right.
Okay.
But she was coming as an attorney, not a chair. So that needs to be corrected, I think.
The other one in Acton.
This is
Oh.
maybe. Well, there's only two of us, so one of us has to move and the other one has to second.
Oh, okay. Do you wanna approve them even with that, correction?
I think we can approve with the correction.
Okay, so I approve, the meetings the minute meetings for 4/24/18 with the question about, Sherry Gould's,
Being changed to attorney.
attorney, Sherry Gould, yeah.
And
So,
I'm in favor.
okay, second?
Sure.
So those two are done, and it's 7:10, so we'll do the
Yeah.
others later.
Yeah.
Jimmy, thank you for coming, appreciate it. And I guess everybody, thank you for coming. Ooh, look we have there. You better be careful.
Resident.
Ooh.
So we're gonna open up a discussion. It was on the agenda for 7:10 PM, King Street and Jones Meadow, senior residential developments. We're preparing comments to the planning board and the senior living proposals. And who in the room is here on those?
So Matthew Field, and I have my attorney Jennifer Platt.
Okay, so, do we have we
Our
should have a
engineer.
sign-in sheet.
Yeah, we should have,
Yeah.
don't you get a empty paper? That's it, beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
So if you could just put your name, address, and the issue that you're coming to speak on. Let's see. Issue of interest.
thank you.
Thanks. So we have, we were asked to give some comments to the planning board, and we didn't have sufficient time to hold a meeting. So some comments went in to elevate some of the concerns that we had. So the purpose of this meeting is to have a discussion, open discussion of the Board of Health on what our comments would be and then to vote on them and finalize them, so that what we would be sending over would be our official comments on them. And we've got Jim Garaffi here, who's our health agent, thank you, really helpful. So I thought what we could do is we can go through one at a time, and the board could talk about them and discuss what we think of each one of them, and then we can open up to discussion and questions after that. And I think, Jim, too, why don't we talk about it, we'll come to some preliminary conclusion, and then you can have a say, and then we'll open it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll work. So the first one is, we're in the process of.
May I interrupt? Is this on TV?
Yeah. You can see behind you.
Good.
Yeah. We're in the process of updating our local regulations to help protect the environment, and we'll be addressing senior residential developments by aligning our regulations with Title V and its senior elderly housing regulations to state any housing unit constructed as a part of a residential development shall be considered new construction and be served by an on-site sewage disposal system with a gallons per day flow rate of no more and no less than 110 GPD, gallons per day, for one-bedroom units, and no more and no less than 150 gallons per day for two-bedroom units, and be age restricted to ensure all owners and occupants are over 55 years of age. And Jim, I might ask you to jump in early on this one, but I'm just gonna say that it's already, my understanding is, and we could put something in here, but Title V would apply here with, there wouldn't be an opportunity to reduce the flow rates for these developments. And I think the planning board is in agreement on that, that's my understanding. So, one way that we could change this is just say that we would be in compliance, that the senior residential housing has to be in compliance with Title V. Jim, do you wanna just jump in and then we can open it up for the board?
Well, so my understanding, talking with Maren, the planning board, that they weren't necessarily targeting seniors, though the name says that. And so if you're doing two-bedroom units, compliance with Title V, if they weren't housing for elderly, would require 220 gallons per day for a two-bedroom unit. If they're age restricted and come under that part of Title V that says housing for elderly, then they'd be restricted to the 150.
Yeah.
But they're not age restricted.
My understanding is the zoning change that you made didn't age restrict the units.
Yeah.
So that's where, when I was giving you comments on the regs, I mentioned that that's something you should talk with planning board and probably town council to figure out how you wanted to handle that.
So if they're not age restriction, there would be no, they would have to comply straight with Title V.
That's right, that 150
Yeah.
would age, the flow would be.
220.
Well, if you were gonna restrict them to the 150, I'm not sure how you can do that. It's a matter of trying to balance between both your local reg and what Title V says and what the town zoning bylaw is.
Yeah.
So if you decide to say 150 and you kind of backed into Title V, then be age restricted unit, two-bedroom units. I'm not sure if that's the intent. And again, the legality of trying to change zoning by way of Board of Health.
Yeah, I think it might be better just to say they have to comply with Title V and leave it at that.
I guess that's a choice of the board.
That's what.
Anybody have any comments?
That's something we should talk to the planning board about.
Well, we would be the one making that decision, so we could, no, I don't think we could, I mean, we're making comments right now. So our comments would be something, I think, something to the fact that, and it's a given, they'd have to comply with Title V. Maybe we could put some language in there that there wouldn't be any reduction in flow unless it was tied to an age restriction. Or maybe not even do that.
I think the bylaw has already decided that it's not gonna be age restricted.
I think it's confusing because it's called the senior development, so that's where we're getting,
Yeah, the name,
yeah.
It's called age targeted. So.
no, the zoning bylaw is called, senior residential development. So you think it's gonna be 55 and over, but it's not in the bylaw. Not deeded to somebody over 55. So I guess I don't understand that part. So.
So, yeah, I think by the bylaw, we can't put an age on it and,
You can't change the bylaw, it was voted at town.
right.
So I think our comment is, has to comply with Title V, no reduction in flow allowed unless there's an age restriction. Does anybody have any?
I just can't understand, if a one bedroom would be 150, two bedroom. I can't understand why it should be a restriction. If somebody lives in the second bedroom and they use the bathroom, the water, whatever, why restrict them?
Well, we're just gonna,
Why?
we're not gonna do anything in addition to what Title V requires.
Okay, by Title V. Title V actually requires two bedroom, there's more flow. You know, these people are trying to comply with the Title V, they're trying to comply with all the regulations we have, but you impose sometime to a situation where it's going to be difficult for them to deal with it. Why? We're here to help people.
Well, we're not adding anything. We're
No,
just saying
I
they
know,
have
I
to
know.
comply with
As
Title
long as
V.
you comply with Title V, you see, we can double check with the attorney, and you see that they will agree with me.
I guess the idea is that if it's elderly housing, then it should be, as per Title V, relates to elderly housing, but it currently is not elderly housing. It's age targeted.
It's really mixed use.
You're correct,
It's really,
it's mixed. It's not fully, the only elderly house that we have in 19, right there, subdivided by the state, they only have one bedroom.
The little thing.
Right, so that's different. But somebody that's trying to accommodate the need for housing, and you say, well, oh, my regulation says 150, and there's two people that live there. You know what I mean? Why they buy two bedroom? To be restricted?
I think, Roger, you said your development's gonna be Title V compliant, correct?
Yes, because of the fact that you could be 55 and still have a daughter or son that's 17 or 18 living with you. And have one kid.
I have
Still
that.
there
Yeah.
That's why we're gonna have basements.
Just don't finish them.
Like,
That was not a threat.
So, Jim, does this sound right? The projects must comply with Title V. The way the current bylaw is written, senior residential development does not meet the Title V description of elderly housing.
So, again, I can't really speak to the zoning bylaw, but my understanding is it doesn't restrict the age. So you could have, you know, two-bedroom houses that had a mix of ages, or you could,
Yeah.
I assume you could restrict it.
And
if you
elderly
wanted.
housing has to be over 55,
So,
as defined by Title V, correct?
so if you're going to specify it as housing for elderly, and that's a term in the code, Title V, then it's age restricted. And
Yeah,
then
so-
you can get 150 gallons per day per two.
I'm just saying that the way that our regulation's written, senior residential development does not meet the Title V description of elderly housing.
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
it sounds like, and again, I defer to Maren on this. I
Okay.
assume you can propose a housing for elderly project under that senior residential bylaw.
Yeah, right. I'm
In
just
which
saying
case
that
you
the
would
way that
then-
the bylaw is written, it
Yeah.
doesn't, just so it's
So
clear.
it could go in.
Do the
I guess you
lawyers
could-
in the room? Seeing you nodding.
It has to comply with Title
And so
V.
I know.
Without making a regulation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're not making a regulation.
So
We're just
I'm
making a
commenting,
comment.
it's
It's
fine.
just a
And
comment.
so is Cooper.
And so, under, our reading it, under these new bylaws, you could have it be age restricted, and if you were age restricted, then under Title V, you could reduce the
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah.
But if you're not having it age restricted, then again, you'll still comply with Title V, and you just need to have the higher flow rates.
Yes.
That's perfect. Now can we go?
Right.
So, let's go one by one. I mean, do you wanna make a motion
No.
and agree as a board?
Yeah, this, I move to agree that the developments must comply to Title V.
Yeah.
I second.
the way I just said it, because I'm gonna have to type this stuff up, so is that okay?
The way Erin just read it.
Okay. Somebody's gonna type it up.
Can you, say it again so I can, slowly so I can record?
Oh, yeah, and we're in
'Cause I-
TV too, so.
Cause I need to, she said I needed to make, who said the motions,
So the,
what it was.
the
and who voted on it.
developments
Must comply
must comply with Title
V.
V, the way the current bylaw is written. Senior residential development does not meet the Title V description of elderly housing. And the only reason to say that is just to make it clear. Okay.
I don't think you need to say that, Erin, but I'm gonna suggest that rather than confuse the planning board with your intention,
Mhm.
and, I mean, just say it just has to comply with Title V. Because they know the senior residential bylaw does not meet the definition of elderly housing already. So rather than them guessing what your intention was by adding that sentence, I think it confuses.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to age restrict, as Jen said, if someone wanted to build an age-restricted project and have less flow, then all they have to do is deed restrict it to age restricted.
Yeah.
So maybe the way to do that is to say that any project submitted
I know,
under the senior residential bylaw must comply with Title V. And that way there, depending on what kind of proposal you see, it still needs to comply.
If someone proposes 150 gallons for a two-bed, Jim can say, not without an age
And
restriction.
I totally understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. I just think it, and I don't know if it would be or not, might not be a bad idea to go on the record and just say it here, so that we don't have any misunderstandings going forward. I mean, everybody in the room understands, but, no, what do you
Or
guys
just-
think?
May I ask, do you have a problem with the projects?
No, it has nothing to do with what we're
No.
talking about.
No, but I'm just asking.
Not in general,
I don't
no,
like the
no.
bylaw.
So, we're not gonna talk about whether I have a problem with the project in this meeting. We're gonna go through our comments as the Board of Health.
That's on our
No,
agenda.
I'm saying in general, the Board of Health. Is there,
We're gonna go through the comments one by one. We're not gonna have a discussion like that.
Maybe,
It's
Jen,
not
you say in
productive.
your comment, I mean, if you wanna get to what you're trying to get to, maybe say in your comment, they have to comply with Title V, and as you know, if they're looking for reduced flow, Title V requires age restriction,
Okay,
right?
yeah. All right, which is basically, I think, pretty close. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so good. Yay, one down.
Let's go for Jen, but I know it's
Two.
from start.
We are also in the process of updating local regulations 8 and 9 to protect the environment. Please take this into consideration in your engineering process. Regulation 8, and I know it's not clear the way it's written. Again, we wanted to we thought it was more important to get the information out than not, so we sent this out and we're gonna finalize it now. Regulation 8, an individual sewage disposal system and all connecting sewer lines shall be installed in the same lot as the facility discharging sewage into said system. Regulation 9, shared systems will only be approved if each individual lot proposed to use such system can support a subsurface sewage disposal system which can meet the requirements of Title V and local regulations without a variance. The area proposed which could support a subsurface sewage disposal system on each lot shall not be used for any other purpose. And I just want to say that we are in the process of reviewing our local regulations and possibly making some modifications. And the purpose of this was to try to let the developers know that rather than blindsiding them later. That was the intent here. We have not finished that process, so these are not final.
And we can't talk about it tonight either.
Yeah, I
That's
was
a good
gonna
point.
say, I have a question, because I don't see that on the agenda.
Right.
Yep.
Right, okay.
So we don't even need to set that in as a comment? Because it's.
Well, we have it as a comment on the,
So
To
these are
the
comments,
planning
and this was
board.
on your agenda, so
yeah,
my understanding.
I'm reading verbatim the comments to the planning board that we had drafted. So, I guess,
On senior living proposals?
yeah.
Okay.
So I guess what we can do here is,
And subsequently, I think Mr. Field came in front of us and let us know that his development proposal is for condos, so it's all one lot. So I don't know if that,
yeah. So, if
Apply.
one option here is to, if we decide this isn't really relevant, we can just vote to take that one out.
I think since we're in the process of changing it, I think we shouldn't even muck up the waters with that.
Yeah.
I agree.
Take it out.
So we need a,
Well, I second removing the,
you have to
oh,
move it.
I move to, remove the, number 2 comment from the, planning board.
The draft.
The draft of the
I
planning
think
board.
it's true, yeah. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 3, and the reason we're going through like this is because this is part of the public record now, because they were submitted. So, 3, Mill Pond and its unnamed tributary are in very close proximity to this proposed development and are classified by EPA, section 303D, as class 5 impaired water bodies. See attached map. Class 5 is the most severe rating. Development in the vicinity of waterways is a primary cause of water body impairment, as the natural infiltration of runoff through the ground is lost to pavement, roofing, directed stormwater runoff, and septic systems. A key way to protect our water supply, especially our drinking water resource, as the town population increases, is to limit development in these key water resource areas. Please see the attached map showing the impaired status of not only Mill Pond, but other bodies of water in Littleton.
What property are you talking about?
This is King Street.
Avon Water Resource District?
I'm
So,
sorry?
the-
Is your property in a, is that property in a water resource
I
district?
think
It
we're gonna
is.
talk to
The,
Gordon.
it is,
Okay, we're gonna talk about it first, and then we'll. So,
yeah.
I think the intent here was to alert, to bring it up, the issue that, you know, when we look at giving any kind of relief to our regulations, we look at what the impact would be via that relief. And so I think this is just giving an idea of what, some of our concerns were and giving any sort of relief to, local regulations.
I think this is the project that your engineer said that you're gonna treat the runoff, is that right?
Yeah, so we're in a unique property where the entire piece of property, no water leaves the site. We have no wetlands. It's in a literal bowl. And we have all of our roofs going into drainage, all like a Cultec.
Driveways and
Everything.
roadways.
It doesn't, not one drop leaves the site. So,
Of surface water,
what's that?
surface water.
Mhm.
Yeah, so groundwater would be different. That's gonna flow to the, into the spec pond.
No.
No,
And if our,
What?
Mill Pond.
we'll get our
Okay.
engineer to comment on that and whether
Yeah.
the,
Yeah, you're probably 1,500.
Oh, yeah,
feet away
we're at
from
least
Mill Pond.
1,500 feet from Mill Pond.
Yeah, I was
More.
just clarifying, so that's surface water, so there's groundwater too.
but the development wouldn't impair the existing groundwater flow, is what I'm understanding from the engineer. And obviously, they'll have to present that to
We have
you.
an
Well-
engineer here with us.
Actually, we're gonna go through these comments, but we can also discuss other comments, and one of the things I brought up at the last meeting is that there is, well, at least in the Aquifer Resources District, which would not apply to you guys, you have to do a hydro study. Okay. So, as a board, I guess, this seems to me to be a comment, just to alert the, planning board.
Well, this,
To
we
do
also
this.
made this comment before we knew that they had that treatment on the project, so.
Well,
I think Erin's talking about groundwater, not.
Oh, well,
I
this,
don't-
this
I
is
mean, I
talking
don't know
about
what-
runoff.
If that's what you're talking
well,
about.
I,
Since it's in the aquifer and the water moves back and forth.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
but-
any subsurface discharge, which would be a septic system, would flow to Mill Pond.
Yeah,
So even the surface water is contained, it's gonna infiltrate, go to groundwater anyway, so.
yeah.
But I, getting back to this as a comment to the planning board. The way we've written this, it's alerting them to be cognizant of this.
Does Jim have any comments? side at all, or?
So I haven't seen any, I mean, the project's in such preliminary process right now. I'm not sure I've even seen a plan of the King Street development. So comments that I typically would give to the planning board are very, basic. They need septic systems in compliance with the code, they need potable water, they need to deal with drainage. Stumps, if they're doing it, need to be disposed of properly, blasting, if it's done non-chlorate materials. So they're usually very broad and very basic until we actually see a plan. I don't know what's proposed for particularly in the King Street, what's proposed for the development. I haven't seen even a conceptual plan yet.
So this doesn't really say anything other than what's already known.
It's just a comment.
It's just a comment. It's
The
not,
board's concerns.
yeah, fine. That's all it is.
Yep.
Just a heads up to the planning board about water.
That's fair,
issues.
no, we do it all the time.
Okay. So do we wanna move to approve that, or anybody?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
The engineer, when they come here, they will tell you all that,
That's number.
Yeah,
so I think you're
That's
safe.
three.
Yeah.
now we're at 4.
Who
Is that a
seconded
good
that?
night?
I'm
It's
supposed
too
to
young
be
to be
next.
an engineer.
I seconded it.
Okay.
So 4, as a town, we're spending a lot of money and giving up valuable resources in conjunction with the potential dredging of Mill Pond, allowing the land buildup in the wetlands on Taylor Street, etc. It does not make sense to make worse an existing impaired condition within our aquifer zone. Nonetheless, which is very concerning. I think we've already hit the water quality issues on item 3.
Might be a little redundant, and plus we haven't had any plans and no one's, their preliminary findings, stand
Yeah.
preliminary plans right now, so there will be more, more studies, more
Yeah.
looking into the water quality and the aquifer zone, I'm sure.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it might be more of a conscom issue. They're dealing with the dredging and the deal they're making to clean up Mill Pond with the excavating company.
They've been talking about that for years, are they
Yeah.
finally going
Yeah.
forward with it, or?
I think it's in the works.
Yeah.
It's a pretty expensive project.
So, but we've addressed the Mill Pond issue
Right.
in the first
In the
one.
previous.
Yeah,
They've been trying to get it clean for many, many years.
I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe if I win the Mega Million, then I'll give them a couple $1 million.
that'd be fun.
After the housing.
That's the only way they get it done. They've been talking about so many, many years, before I even was on the board.
So what do we wanna do with that one?
You roll it into number 3? I guess that would mean we have to rewrite it and reapprove it, so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think number 3 covers number 4.
Mhm.
So we need a motion and a second before, and any discussion from the room?
So
So
I'll motion to remove number 4 from the draft of comments to the planning board.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, last one. Before any permits are granted, we will need a declaration from the Department of Environmental Protection that there would be no negative impact on the environment from this potential development. So I
can almost guarantee you won't get that.
no.
I've never seen DEP make a declaration of.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know what the regulatory basis is for this.
I don't know.
Do you know what the regulatory basis is?
Protecting the environment.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah,
read
'cause-
Title V, the kind of open statement in there saying that if you follow, Title V is, minimum standards to protect the public health and safety and welfare. So
And the
Yeah.
environment.
They make that statement in the regulations, so as long as you're following the code, the presumption is that you're being protected with public health and the environment.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, we have to, decide what to do with this one. Jim doesn't think it's gonna fly?
I'd be, it's a hard time to get them at a meeting, and again, because the regulations actually have built into them that if you comply with the
Right.
regs, you're doing that piece of it. I don't know on what grounds that they would say that, or not say that, for that, whatever the case may
You
be.
can write them a letter, see if they come. I bet they know.
Could do that.
Oh, boy, boy. Trying to protect the
Any
environment.
discussion from the board? I guess we'll hit the board first. Comments? Comments? The room?
Look at Roger.
As I think Mr. Bradford was saying, it's not something that the applicants could actually obtain.
Yeah, okay.
And some sort of professional review just to make sure we're doing the right thing for the environment, I think is in order. I don't know what that is.
Okay, but typically the engineer gives you that.
Would that be you, Jim?
No, but I think your regulations, I think your very first
Fits.
regulations, and we talked a little bit about this, allows you to hire professional staff to take a look at a project, so project-based review.
Yeah.
So
Peer review.
if at some point in time you think that's important, that may be the route that you take.
Yeah, and that really might be powered, initiated by the concerns of the community. You know, if there's a lot of concerns in the community, that would be a good way to address them.
When we did Cooper Farm, we were required to hire a peer review that we paid for on the town's behalf.
Yeah.
Paid for by the developer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the planning board.
Yeah.
But I think the Board of Health regs has that right. The first regulation, I think, allows you that
Okay,
ability.
so maybe we want to change this to, we reserve the right to request a peer review of this project to ensure compliance with regulations and minimization of environmental impacts. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
So it's number 5.
Yeah. It says, it's not we reserve the right.
So you don't want to.
We reserve the right to request a peer review, not a peer review, no, not a peer review, a,
Unbiased.
technical review, unbiased. Review. At a later date. To ensure minimization of environmental and public health impacts. So we need a motion on that one.
Madam Chair, just,
Yeah.
I heard at a later date, and I'm gonna ask if you can make that say peer review during the review process. Because at a later date, it's open to interpretation whether somebody can reopen a project after it's all been approved. Just take the words at a later date out, please.
I don't have a problem with that, you guys?
That's
Not
fair,
that I'm
yeah.
aware.
Review that,
During the design process?
Yeah,
or-
during the approval process.
Put review. Yeah, okay. Alrighty. Vote.
Good, make a motion to accept.
Oh, anybody want to second that? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. All right, so this one, this is King Street, senior residential development. We just went through what we had originally submitted and modified, and now we can talk about, make sure that we hear from anybody in the audience who has something to say, and also talk about anything in addition that we want to put in there.
just about King Street.
Yeah.
But we're gonna talk about Jones too.
We are, yeah. I just wanted to finish these off for King Street. Does anyone in the audience want to say anything else? Or not audience, but in the room? This is King Street.
Just on behalf of the developer, I want to say that there's a lot of interest in our community in this development. We've had a lot of inquiries from seniors who are hoping that this will go forward, so we're hoping that we can work with all the boards and get this project approved and moving forward. So far, I believe you said you've had 7.
We have 7 local senior residents that have come to us based on the price of the units that make it affordable for them, where they can go from their home on Jennifer, around the area and get into this and not have any maintenance on the home. It allows them to do a positive move as opposed to going west of here where they have loss of sphere of influence, worship, friends, and they get to stay in the community. And that's the positive of this project.
We've had the same response with ours as well.
Did you, I just want to make sure that you said your name and that you,
Jennifer Pratt.
and you represent,
Field of,
Realty.
yeah, and then,
Matthew Field.
yeah, just
You're
for the,
right, you're right.
for the
Thank you.
recording, yeah. I was told that we need to do that better. so
State your name.
Trying.
Roger Canard, Jones Meadow. Yeah, we've had quite a bit of response for the housing over there. People want to sell their bigger homes and move to something smaller. And a lot of my price points are going to be mostly like a lateral move for them, but they want to get out of the maintenance.
People getting older, so they want to be comfortable, 1 or 2 bedroom,
And not leave Littleton.
and stay in Littleton.
You said about the price
I'm
point,
too
what
young
about
to
the
retire.
taxes? The taxes?
It's going to be cheaper than where they're
Yeah,
at.
mhm, okay. So, I have a couple of,
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a couple other questions. You guys are having like a shared system?
Yes,
Is there a need for a reserve in the shared system?
yes,
And is there gonna be, we saw
Yes.
preliminary plans, okay.
yes.
All right, and then, we were talking about, how many units per acre?
Yeah, that came up at the meeting last time. How many units are allowed per acre?
We had the ability to go with 31 units, and on working with the planning board, we've reduced it down to 26 units to have a more contiguous open space around the property for the walking trails, for the privacy between neighbors, and, you know, just, and we also, one of the major concerns of not only the board, the planning board, and also they hired a consultant to look at what seniors really needed and wanted. And they did not like the fact that we had an 8-plex, 2 8-plexes, a 6-plex, and 2 4-plexes. So we've revised the drawing where we have triplexes and duplexes, the same as White Street. It's essentially the same layout as White Street with the units like that.
Did you do White Street?
I'm sorry?
Did you do White Street?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. But what are the regulations for units per acre? Do you have any idea?
So if they're in a zone 2 or nitrogen sensitive area, it's 440 per acre, 440 gallons per acre.
Oh, I meant units,
Yeah.
like
In
building
terms of-
units.
Not flow.
Number of
Building
units?
We go,
Eight per
yeah, I mean,
acre.
Title V doesn't necessarily restrict or limit the number of units per se, it's the number of bedrooms, it's a design for.
Right, okay, all right.
The zoning allows.
Zoning.
8
We're
per acre.
allowed to have,
It allows 8 per acre under the senior residential bylaws. So we could have had 35 units on site, and right now we're proposing 26.
Okay.
which is 3 affordable units at 187,000 or whatever they are.
And you?
The chart goes cottage dwelling or 2-family dwellings is 4 units per acre. Townhouse dwellings, 8 units per acre. Independent living is 20 units per acre. And assisted living residence is 16 units per acre. So we're gonna have 4 units per acre. We have 12 acres. We could be allowed 48 units. We're gonna put in 30, well, we're proposing 30. To allow us, we're required to have 30% open space. We have about 37%.
Anything
Any other
else
questions on Joan?
See that working with the environment.
King Street?
Yeah, on King Street, I know zoning doesn't allow this, but, you know, in order to protect the environment, I'd like to see it a lot denser. Taking out less footprint.
Well, take the existing use and make it denser. Take what they want to propose. Yeah.
Shrink it up.
No, he would like to see apartment buildings. We actually we proposed a long time ago, a structure shaped like an L with a library and you could actually go to Chelmsford and see the unit. But they have a community room, and we proposed a senior housing, a senior
Recreation.
recreation room.
Recreation.
And we had 60 units, and the planning board said, no, we do not allow apartment buildings in Littleton. This is what it is, and that's not
Or
what.
if you were to shrink it down and do a wastewater treatment, I think it would be
Doesn't,
better for
it
the
has
environment.
nothing to do with the affluent. It has to do with the zoning regulations allowing a certain structure.
We
And
have
it's
them
not
over
allowed.
here, the Littleton line or,
Over in there?
no, in Littleton.
Right near
You're not
Acton.
permitted under the
Right near
the
Acton,
new
we have the
senior
big building.
residential
Yeah, I
district
mean, those are,
bylaws.
I know
So
people
it's-
live there, they really like it.
Which one's that?
Omni, down near Crescent.
Oh, Omni.
No, you're talking about across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, right
Yeah,
across
across the
town.
street.
Littleton Inn?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Behind
behind
Littleton
there,
Inn.
up behind
Yeah.
there.
Green.
behind
Yeah,
there.
yeah, it's apartment spec.
Yeah, they don't allow that. That was under a 40B, I believe.
Why
I
not?
mean, we could go do that, but no, thank you.
The other thing is, and it's a little aside from Board of Health, but low impact development, anything you can do to maximize infiltration. And I know you talked about it, but we are gonna have someone come in. We did a review of the regs of our code for ways to maximize low impact development in town. So,
What does that mean?
low impact development,
Yeah.
that's water resource conservation in terms of quality and quantity. So it's kind of innovative ways for, to do your site
Low
work.
flow.
Well, no, it's more than that. I'll let you know when the meeting's
I
gonna be.
would love to go.
Yeah, that would be great, and I'll let you guys know too. So we're gonna have an expert come in, and he's gonna talk about it. He's with Weston and Sampson. So
I'd love
that's
to go.
through the sustainability committee.
So
I'll
to answer
definitely
your
let you
question,
know.
we tried doing a number of different things, working with the selectmen, and we got a roadblock that, just, you can't get around.
What would it take?
I'm sorry?
What would it take?
What would it take?
What would it take?
It would take going to the town and allowing,
They have to revise the bylaws
Yeah,
to start.
it's not gonna happen. It's actually gonna go the other way. I'm sure, the next go around. But we're here, we spent $100,000 already, and we're gonna keep going forward with your approval.
Well,
Does Diane want us to
yeah,
move along?
Diane, do you have a?
Yeah, so 74 King Street, Dankford. So I'm gonna be right out in front, and I've been talking with Matt and Michael, and, I'm happy with what he's doing. So, I'm here to support him in the project. I've been to both of the planning board meetings supporting him, and I don't want to see roadblocks being put up for the project. Like he said, he's already reduced the size of it, and, I'm gonna be a neighbor. I want you to listen to the neighbors. We're gonna be the ones that are impacted. I wouldn't be here tonight if I wasn't in favor of it. I wouldn't be here, talking to you unless I was in favor of it. Nobody's here talking against it. So I hope that you will, support him in the projects that are here before you, and help them get through it instead of, making them jump through hoops. Because they're both Littleton residents, and they're gonna do what's right for Littleton.
We're
Thank
just
you.
commenting.
Thank you very much.
We're just commenting. Right. I'm not trying to make it harder, we're just
I
commenting.
know, I'm just,
I mean, we
Just-
truly have real seniors that have come to us that are all friends with the Wade Street people. there's nowhere they can go.
Mhm.
It's affordable. There's just, you're in the business.
It's also, it's not age restricted either, so.
No, it isn't,
This,
but
they could be single women who need a
there are
small
as
place to
many
live,
of that,
you
there's
know?
as many veterans, I
Mhm.
mean, it's a need. There's 10,000 people in central Massachusetts that need housing.
And how are you, I know this is veering off the side, so you've got people that are interested, there's no lottery, is it just first come, first serve, and who can pay?
No, there's a lottery on the affordable.
Right, but
We have
the
to hire
other,
a
the other
lottery.
units,
But
it's.
the other are market rate.
The other are market rate units.
So.
But we
whoever
know our
gets there
price
first.
points already, so, and the public knows it because of all the meetings on the planning board
Yeah.
on TV.
So whoever gets there first with the money, you're
Correct.
gonna do the,
Correct.
offer, who offers more, or you're just gonna
No,
take the
we're
first?
too-
Mhm.
You can't do that, because I'm in Littleton, I'm not gonna be in row 2, O'Donnell's ducking when somebody's in row 1. It's just, it doesn't,
Do it all the time.
it doesn't work.
I
No,
was gonna
it
say,
doesn't.
don't
You
we all?
can't, you can't. If you go up to Cooper, and Roger will tell you, you're at a price per foot, and that's where you are.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's 2 really good projects in front of you for seniors, and we're building one right now in Cooper, and we've built one in the past, and they are needed, and there are seniors that are looking and coming,
Mhm.
so.
It's true.
And you deal with the seniors on a
Yeah.
daily basis,
Yes, sir.
working with them.
And they have no place to go.
There's nowhere to go.
My seniors are a little in a different department. I call them different department. You know why?
They don't have as much money.
Correct.
I feel,
They make less than $10,000 a year.
I feel for them, Gene.
No,
but-
I know.
I mean, the cost to construct a house
I know.
is what it is.
And I always trying to help them, trying to find them a place. And when they do, they're so appreciative. You know, they come out of nowhere. They say, Gino, we really appreciate it. They come and they give me a hug. I didn't ask for a hug. They come and give me a big hug.
So,
You know, what are you gonna do? But we need more housing for the seniors too.
we do.
My type of seniors. You're
I've
very
built-
lucky that we
I've
have
built
seniors.
2 senior developments for seniors. Cooper is a senior development. They are geared at that, huh?
A portion.
Yeah, a portion of them are designated that way, deed restricted, as well as White Street. I'm just going with the
You do
bylaw
what you
gives.
can, that's
Yeah.
all. He does what
So,
he can too.
let's move on to the next one, because we've got 2 developments.
I
and we-
apologize.
No, don't apologize, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay.
We had 2 new people, we were just talking about King Street, which is on Jones Meadow. Were you here for that, or for the other development?
We're here for Jones Meadow.
Okay. Sorry, so King Street,
Yeah.
not Jones Meadow. We just did King Street. And I lost my pen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're here for the Cricket Lane. See, they're being called all different names again. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Cricket,
You're here for
Jones Field,
Cricket Lane.
Anything in that area.
That's Jones Meadow.
What is King Street gonna be called?
Just call it King Street, please.
I know.
Don't
I'm
call
sorry.
Named
it.
it after Mrs. Weber. I haven't told her, but it's Weber.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
You didn't have to
nice.
spoil the surprise.
Nice lady.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're on
Hopefully she's
TV.
watching it. but
She probably
We've
is.
already named it after her.
So I do not have,
She's moving back.
we're gonna move on
She
to
was
the
here
next
last
one,
time.
which is Jones Meadow. And this is over at Cricket Lane. And I don't have my copy of the,
Jones,
yeah,
Gomez?
I think they're probably.
it's similar.
Yeah, so just to say, the difference in this one is within an aquifer and water resources district. So this has,
Aquifer too?
it's in,
I'd have to see the plan, didn't see the lines.
so it's in a zone 3. So what happens is when we have drinking water wells, there's different zones that are mapped that contribute the groundwater that goes to the drinking water well. So, and the reason they do that, so you can protect it. So this is a zone 3. Our regulations don't address zone 3. They address, I think, zone 1 and zone 2.
Title V is, yep.
Yeah, okay. So our regulations aren't, well, we've got the Aquifer and Water Resources District, which is a local,
Correct.
yeah, okay. So there's a couple of things that pertain here that don't pertain to the other one, right? Okay, I just want to say that as backdrop. So, and then, I'm sorry, you didn't, are you here for for one of the projects?
I'm here for both.
Okay.
I'm with Ducharme Dillis.
Okay, alright. So, again, we put in some, we didn't have enough time. We're providing sufficient time to respond to this. We wanted to get some issues out on the table. We sent something in and now we're discussing it and finalizing. So, board, these are the preliminary draft comments that we sent in with the issues that we're concerned about. Board of Health has the following comments regarding the proposed Jones Meadow Senior Residential Development. 1, Spectacle Pond is classified by the EPA, Section 303D, as a Class 5 impaired water body.
I don't have it.
Class 5 is the most severe rating, which means most degraded. In addition to noxious plants, Spectacle Pond is listed for organic enrichment, low dissolved oxygen. Organic enrichment, low dissolved oxygen are caused by sewage waste and stormwater runoff, among other causes. Development in the vicinity of waterways is a primary cause of water body impairment, as the natural infiltration of runoff through the ground is lost to pavement, roofing, directed stormwater runoff, and septic systems. A key way to protect our water supply, especially our drinking water resource, as the town population increases, is to limit development in these key water resource areas. We are reminded of Concord's water supply at Nagog Lake, which is much larger and far less developed than Spectacle Pond. Spectacle Pond is already impaired and we should protect it from further impairment. Please see the attached map showing the impaired status of not only Spectacle Pond, but other bodies of water in Littleton. So, under the Board of Health regulations, we do have a certain level of responsibility for ensuring that water resources are protected, and by our water resources also impact public health, especially here where we use local water sources for drinking water, and that, which is the root of the comment coming from the Board of Health. So this is similar to the other one we discussed, where we're bringing up the issue and making a comment so that all the boards looking at this are aware when they're taking a look.
So, yeah, it's just a statement, right? It's just a statement saying that we should be careful because it's in a Class 5.
Yeah, I think
It's just sort of,
we could write this a little bit more directly, in that, say that this Class 5 impaired water, and that groundwater will most likely discharge. So additional nutrients should be taken into consideration, or something to that
You must
effect.
say something.
Yeah, I know, but we're gonna talk the board and then we'll
Oh,
open it
okay.
up, if that's just easier way, I think, to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There is one thing, under the Aquifer and Water Resources District, it does require, and I brought this up the last meeting, analysis by qualified engineer. Doesn't have to be an engineer, it could be a scientist. Experiencing groundwater evaluation and or geohydrology. So this means that we're looking at groundwater here. Septic systems discharge to groundwater, not surface water, not via surface water. So in addition to the surface water information, we need groundwater information. Evaluate proposed use and probable effects of surface water and groundwater quality and quantity and natural water flows. So I think bringing up the spec pond, the status of spec pond is a good idea, but we could add in something here saying that this is an issue, groundwater discharges to spec pond, and under, and it's 2.5, item 5, we'll expect analysis by qualified engineer under that regulation, which would kind of pull that together. Does that make sense? Jim, do you,
I'm not sure what regulation you're talking about.
it's the Aquifer and Water Resources District.
Is that Board of Health bylaw or what?
No.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the bylaw.
But it's not, it's under its own bylaw, but like under the monitoring is also required.
Okay.
which was, I thought, insufficient in the application. And groundwater wells monitoring, it has to be submitted to the Board of Health. So it's kind of tied together. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
That's the first I heard of that. I never read the aquifer special permit.
We,
Or aquifer.
if you look at the application that came in, and you go through, it's a format that's consistent with the regulation. So what they did was they addressed this only for surface water. And, yeah,
And nothing around that.
right. So I'd like to put a comment in that we'll be expecting this to be done. And then we could say, hey, this is a class 5 impaired water, discharge will be going in that direction. This needs to be done. Does that make sense?
I think that's a good idea because so many people were concerned about their wells at that first meeting
Yeah.
from Cricket Lane, so.
Yeah, and the other thing is they said that they would provide a list of, an inventory of local wells, so we can add that in too.
So can you read that out again for me, so I can record it?
Well, let's, me go through. I'm not sure we want to include everything that's in one, and, I mean, it's up to you guys, I'm not gonna make all the decisions, but just because it's going out a little bit on a limb. I don't know if we want to include Concord's water supply,
Yeah, to
because
compare
that's,
it to compare it to Nagog, which is a reservoir.
because we haven't,
But there is already the distance between the well. There's already, is it 100 feet or 200 feet?
Septic systems need to be 100 feet from wells.
So that is already there for the aquifer. I don't know why you want to add it on. As we go by,
add what,
they say like to add that thing on the other side. Right there,
this,
yeah. There's already a regulation for the aquifer.
because talking about, a key way to protect our water supply, especially drinking water resources, the town population, is to limit development in these key water resource areas. When the, I don't know, we'll have to, more discussion around that. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, I think it's just a comment.
Yeah. But it's a comment coming from the Board of Health.
It's a comment coming from the water, and the question is, the water department in Littleton should be more familiar with that.
Yeah.
I think if
And
you
they're
like-
saying that,
You know what I'm saying? If you get
they're
it,
saying, their comment was that it was okay.
From the water department?
Oh, I do have the Johnson one, sorry. Okay. I have it electronically.
I have that comment if you want.
you have it?
Which addresses everything you were talking about.
Yeah.
That was all about that slideshow last weekend,
Yeah.
last
Oh, yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
And that puts this project out of that jurisdiction.
Right.
Jones Meadow Senior Residential Development is not within the zone two
No, of course
our
we can
spec
share.
pond well,
I would not even charge.
or any other public water supply,
Go ahead, read
or
it.
air, not within any high yielding aquifer and not within the town's aquifer protection zoning district. It is, of course, in the same watershed as our spec pond well, and therefore within the town's
It's not-
watershed
it's not.
zoning district.
She
This
is not
requires
within
compliance with the
zone
Mass
2.
Stormwater Standards and the town's Low Impact Development Best Management Practices Manual, which is developed under the
Listen,
direction of the Water
We need to
Department.
do ask for the
Littleton Water
Littleton
Department is
Water
confident
Department.
that development
Like I
of the
mentioned.
site will not pose any significant threat to Littleton's drinking water supply.
Yeah, so the Aquifer and Water Resources District has some additional requirements, that they're not mentioning here. But I think the board needs to consider whether we wanna talk about Concord's water supply.
No, I don't,
It's a different situation, right, because our well is underneath spec pond.
It's just, I think we have to be careful about going too far. We just don't have the analysis to support that really. I mean, but the intent is to say, hey, if you develop, you can get impact, but I
Make a
think
copy
that we
for
might
you.
wanna be more focused in our
Can you make a
comments
copy
to,
for me for the other
Gotcha.
thing? Gotcha.
as the Board of
I'm
Health.
gonna send you an email.
I think that
And then
if we
then I gotta
lay it out, hey,
print
you've got
it.
this impaired water,
Make sure I get it next time.
discharges, septic
Good.
system discharges, can cause these types of impairments,
Mhm.
and do one of these as required by Aquifer and Water Resources District to,
And so you're not happy
to
with
take a look at that.
you're not happy with the little water departments?
It's not a matter of being happy, I'm just,
I mean, you don't wanna go by that, you wanna add it on something else?
I'm not adding anything, it's
Okay,
already
all right.
required by the regulation.
All right.
Yeah.
So just make a note of that regulation and then.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking about maybe taking out some of the wording in this comment,
Mhm.
and so I need some input from the board on that.
Yeah, why don't you take
What
out
kind of wording when you
everything,
take it out?
starting with we were reminded of Concord's water supply, and ending with,
Okay.
and strike the rest of the
Because-
paragraph.
like you said.
So it's just gonna
that's
be
a
the-
reservoir,
Right.
not a well,
Right.
too, so it's apples and oranges, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we'll take part of it out. We'll talk about water quality, and then just direct right over to the reg, which you guys, your engineers already, are
Thank
aware
you.
of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
Okay,
So we have to make a motion,
yeah.
so you wanna do
I
that?
can't see it.
Can't see what.
I don't have a copy in front of me.
Oh,
I make a motion to remove the, referring to the Concord water supply in comment 1.
Mhm. I second. You,
But that's only part of the change, that's only part.
And request,
And then request, reg 2.5 of the Aquifer and Water Resource District. Article 14, number 5.
Yeah, number 5, and we can also add in the monitoring here.
Oh, and number 5 and part E too, regarding monitoring.
I can reference right to the regulation and would.
So when does the monitoring happen?
I don't know. It happens, that's up to you. You gotta comply with the regulation. Jim, what do you think of that?
Again, I don't know enough about that regulation to make a comment on it, so
Okay.
I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
want me to make a copy of this?
That I haven't looked at.
Okay,
You have it?
so
Yep.
All right,
For,
thank you.
do you think I need to write all of this stuff down? Okay. She told me to make motion, whoever made motions, but I guess she didn't know if we were gonna be on TV or not, so, okay.
So we need a motion in a second.
And
Oh,
then-
you got the
I
motion.
just
We
made
need
the
a
motion.
second.
I
Sorry.
second, I second.
Sorry. I'll make you do that again. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All against? Good. All right. All right. Number 2. Okay, again, we're talking about, we're in the process of updating our regulations.
do you wanna just make the comment that we already decided was good to include on the King Street project regarding this one?
Well, we deleted that one, we removed that one, since it was up in the
I
air
have,
in the regulations.
Change the language.
Well, that one is must comply with Title V, the way the current bylaw is written, senior residential development.
What number was that?
Yeah. I'm sorry, hold on.
Number 2?
Yeah. Yeah, so we could just do the
We
same
removed,
thing.
we removed number 2.
No,
Yeah, from the draft, because it was in the process. Our local regulations were in the process.
Right, and then she,
I have a-
We adjusted number 1 that had.
that was number 1
flow.
on the last one.
this
It was
is
number
Jones,
1
I've got
on
2
King Street,
Jones here,
that's
that's,
number 2 on this one. That's
Okay,
what's confusing.
okay.
there's my King Street, on this side. Yeah,
So we just said development, must comply with Title V.
As you know, the current bylaw is
As you know,
written.
the current, yeah.
Senior residential
The way the
does
current
not meet.
bylaw is written, senior residential development is not. Sherry suggested just say, development must not comply with Title V. As you know. Senior elderly housing is not, it's not in the Title V. Okay. Right.
Okay.
So we agree to,
Oh, great, we need a motion in a sec.
Motion to accept, comment number 2.
as adjusted,
Adjust it per
Adjust it.
King Street
yeah.
to match
Same
King
as number
Street.
1 for
Yeah,
King Street.
right.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Number 3, we are in receipt of diagnostic feasibility study of Spectacle Pond, Littleton, Mass., conducted in 2001. This report, although very detailed and thorough, is 17 years old. We'd like to see an updated report at minimum before any application is presented to the board. We are paying special attention to section 6.2, fish, wildlife, and critical habitat, 6.2.4, effects of potential development within the watershed, 7.2.25, land use planning. It's recommended that natural areas are preserved, particularly those not already subject to protection.
Who did the diagnostic feasibility study?
So
Study
that
to begin with?
that was ESS, and that was a thorough,
It's like 148 pages.
yeah.
Yeah.
So are we saying we wanna have that same thing here? I'm not sure we have the authority to ask for that. That's a full-on, it's almost like a Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act review.
Tim?
Not familiar with it.
I think
The current
that's,
letter addresses that.
No, it doesn't go
Have you
as
seen
far as
that?
that.
Have you seen that
Oh,
report?
148 pages?
Yeah.
Haven't seen it.
So,
One of the residents, yeah, had it done in 2001. Corey Godfrey sent it to us.
so we're asking for the hydrogeological evaluation to look for potential impacts on the water resource. And those impacts are what's gonna impact the wildlife. What we're asking for doesn't include the components of that feasibility study that have to do with fish and wildlife and critical habitat.
So is there any way that just that area that those, items can be studied again, not the whole
Well-
148?
We've already got the water resource, the hydrogeological study. We're asking for that, and there's a regulation that backs that up, but I'm not sure what our rationale, what our backup is for this one.
Maybe we can, the last point we made on King Street regarding just having a professional review at time during the review period.
Okay.
Maybe that just covers it all.
That's
It's
consistent. Yeah, that's a good idea. What do you guys think of that?
I agree to that.
Yeah. Gino? Does anyone in the room have any comments on anything we've gone over so far? On Jones Meadow?
I have comments, but not specific to what you said.
Okay. And then the next one, before any permits are granted, we will need a declaration of
We need to
Department of
vote on it.
Environmental.
Oh, yeah, let's
I'm
vote-
sorry.
Let's go on striking that.
Okay.
Um,
So we need to move a motion in a second.
Motion to remove number 3, as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But then change it, did you wanna change it to?
Well, we'll just take number 4 now and then adjust it to what we changed under the
Okay.
other King
Alright.
Street.
And then I'm assuming you wanna just get rid of, number 4?
And replace it with whatever we wrote for King Street.
Yeah.
Is
Are you
it
good
right
with
to
that?
request a
Yep.
unbiased
Professional review.
review
Excuse me,
Okay.
during the review process to ensure minimization of environmental and public health impact. Want a second?
I don't,
Oh, do we have a motion?
Second.
Make a motion to accept what you just said.
Okay. Is there a
I'll
vote to
second it.
request-
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Do we have any, oh, I had a couple of things on this one. One is, are you planning to ask for any relief from our local regulations? No, okay. Because there is something that is maximum flow based on the, there's an allowable flow based on, I think, the area,
Right.
but, okay. And then I had a question, first page of the Aquifer District Reg talks about, single-family dwellings, but since this is special clustered case, is that considered single-family? Because I would think the intent of that regulation was a single-family without, cluster development.
Well, it's a single family, it's a cottage style, I mean, they're only gonna be anywhere from 1,200 square feet to, I think it's restricted to 18 at a max, but
Yeah.
we're not gonna get that big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's not in our purview anyways.
Right.
Just leave that. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Do
I
we
do wanna
have?
say one thing,
Yeah,
we're trying to build affordable homes here.
Yeah.
Every time you add one more regulations to what we have to perform,
yeah,
costs money.
yeah.
That's why these houses cost so much to build.
We haven't added anything. Have we added anything?
You did, you had
did.
peer review,
Yeah, that's right.
and that's very expensive.
Okay,
It just goes on top. And when we're already required to hire a peer review
yeah.
for the planning board.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then it
So
would
the
probably
cost
just be
of
the same
about
thing.
Probably $20,000. by
But
the
yours
time
doesn't
it's done.
say that.
All right, well,
Probably
but we're
more
not
than
saying we're
environment.
going to, we said we reserve the right, so that depends on what the,
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna depend on what the abutters want and also how the rest of it goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it does not say that it would be required at this point. And then, other than that, we haven't added anything, right?
We'll have to see what you, once it's all put together,
Okay.
I'll have to review it, and I'll answer your question.
Yeah. Do you think we've added, well, his is a little different because he's in the aquifer zone.
Me?
Yeah,
I think with the ability to impose at your discretion an additional peer review based on abutting owners is a cost that just gets tacked right on top of whatever you do.
yeah, okay. All right, and that would be the only thing that you see as something in addition?
That's the only thing I have. Do you have anything,
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Not at the moment.
I just want to be clear, like
No,
for
I
the
mean,
record.
And
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we've got one.
It's a lot better.
Like, so we acknowledge that that's a potential tack on.
Mhm.
And then on the Jones Meadow, there's been nothing identified except the same issue that we are adding. So at this point, we are not adding any additional
These are just
requirements.
comments too, so it's.
Yeah, we're not deciding anything, these are just comments
Or
to the planning board.
time, as you know. in the
But I
development
just
world
want to be
is-
really clear on that for the record, because about what's going on here.
I have no problem with any of that.
Okay.
I'll make it clear, you're offering a hamburger to a dog. In layman's word, I mean, you're
I
saying.
don't understand that, I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
Because here it is right here, abutters, do you want them to do this?
Oh.
Or do you want them to request this study or that
Oh,
study?
okay.
Okay?
To perhaps have it say based on the board's determination.
Yeah, but the board's determination takes into different right, it's just lines of evidence, basically. Yes, you're absolutely right. Do we have anything else that we wanna add? Yeah.
So at the last meeting, we heard from some abutters, and they're talking about their wells, and we suggested they test their wells to make sure the water quality doesn't get worse through the development stages. Is there any way that if the town wants this, that the town would help defer the cost of them connecting to town water so that their wells aren't impacted?
Question two. We've already
I
had
know
some.
that feed and connect is steep, so if the town could do anything to give us relief, well, on that.
See. You'd have to talk to the water department first of all, because they'd want to loop something like that. We'd want just a dead end of water to be stagnant, to keep the quality up.
Are there any fire hydrants on that street? Or in Cricket? Yeah.
Nothing.
That was my question too, about whether or not anybody on Cricket would like to, if it's possible, if the town could bring town water to Cricket, because I think we've already seen a woman with an upgrade whose well was contaminated by her own system. And she had to put in a new well and a new septic system, so
Yeah, just looking at
it's
the
not just,
plan.
it's not just your development, it's their water is contaminated a little bit too, so.
And not from anything you've even done yet.
Yeah, yeah.
It's already bad.
I
From
know
her own,
it's-
from her own septic system.
There are tiny lots up there, and to comply with the regs, the offset regs for
Yeah.
septic systems and the wells, it's tough.
It's creative,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know, it's just a comment, maybe one hand can talk to the other and we can try and figure out a solution for the abutters, for their water quality.
The water department check regular water, the town water, right?
Right,
But they might maybe consider to check our well water.
right. That's why,
So
yeah,
with no charge,
right. With no charge?
with no charge, as far as I know, okay?
Mhm.
So they can check it. So we'll make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Water is water.
She drinks Poland Springs.
Yeah.
I have water.
My kids were in
That's
school,
well
they used to sell packets of water at the schools, like clear. And I remember Savas was like outraged because
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we've got the best water in town and they're selling water at the
You do.
elementary
We
schools.
do,
Yeah.
we do.
Do you wanna add anything
You
else?
do.
No, I thought,
For Jones?
I mean, I would like to make a motion to add the comment to see if the abutters are concerned about their well water, that the town give them some relief if this is a project that the town wants to develop.
I'd go with that for a comment.
is it sanctioned, are any of them sanctioned by seniors or anything like that, or council on aging, or I don't know if that's the right word, but, I mean, are they promoting it or helping you guys move along with the senior development at all, or?
Yes, we've had some,
Not just interest, but is there like, I wanna say more like a sponsorship or something like that, but figure out some other word of that. Yeah.
we've had some selectmen
Talking to myself.
helping and some guidance from various people on board. That's it.
Mhm.
So do we wanna,
You have anything else?
yeah, Kevin's got a
comment too, right?
a
about
motion.
the-
Yeah.
No, I'm good with it.
Okay.
Kevin has a motion,
Uh,
or a suggestion, do we have any?
Did the people in the back want to
Well,
comment?
We're gonna, we
I'm
have
sorry,
one.
say that again?
I was asking if the people in
We
the
have
back.
one more suggestion
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
a motion, so
Sorry.
let's go through that.
So I guess the suggestion would be to have the town, have the water department test the water quality at no cost of the
Right.
abutters. And potentially work with the abutters and people's wells who are gonna be affected by this potential development.
They might say yes, they might say no, but the question is good, it's good to ask.
And then see if the town will give relief to both the abutters and the developer to maybe install town water over there if it's decided that it could be a good thing for public health.
Just remember, the town is using the same water from the well, whatever that is, the aquifer is all together.
Mhm.
Is it a private, is Cricket a private
It's a
road?
private way.
So is that probably why they don't have?
Probably,
And then you could put a fire hydrant there too.
Well,
Not you, but.
the project that
Yeah.
we're proposing has 3 in it now.
In it, okay.
Yeah. But it's a big circle, so the water loops around coming back out.
So you two have any comment at all about this event that we
Well,
have
we look forward to
tonight?
working with you.
Well, let's
And thank you for the time.
let's do that
Thanks for
motion
coming.
first. Wait, let's finish this.
I second.
A stickler.
Let's all vote
That's
aye.
me, off in like left field. Wait,
I
did we
second,
second?
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass.
Yes.
You're on.
I'm Rob Hartz. This is my wife Shelley. We are those abutters. We're right off of Barron Way,
And what's your address?
7 Barron Way.
Thank you.
I'm also president of Spectacle Pond Association. We've been around 20 years, looking at, while we're part of the Clean Lakes Coalition as well. So we've been looking at water, and specifically Spectacle Pond water, for a long time. As you know, it borders Air and Littleton. And of course, over 20 years, we've seen the continual paving of large surfaces in these recharge areas, including the auto unloading facility in Hare, which we're very much engaged with trying to make sense of that. The railroad was going to do some things that were going to do true harm to our aquifer. They did go ahead and build it, but through efforts of a lot of people, we have a much, much better stormwater system in place. But more, the important thing is the trend that continues. We're looking at, I think Mr. Weaver from our organization presented last time. I'm sorry I couldn't be here, I was out of town. And it's the same thing we've seen for 20 years, only it's getting worse. It's not just the quality of water, it's quantity of water as well. And we never saw that when we started this organization. And so the concern that I have, and many have, about the process is that you can look at specific regulations, some of those that you mentioned here tonight, and you can say, from a micro standpoint, you know, the development may pass all the tests. The larger test is the one for the entire town, which is saying, what are we doing to our water? Because each one passes the test, but when you add it all up into one look at what have we done in the past 10 years, the lines are always degradation. We're not getting better. We're losing water. We have some problems. Mr. Weaver spoke to a number of them. So that's what we're looking at, is saying, where in the process do we have that accountability for the whole system as opposed to a single development? So it asks you to consider that. Who do we go to and hold that for that accountability? Is it this board? Is it the Board of Selectmen? Is it somewhere else? I'm not sure. The second thing I would say, having been out of town, I can't escape my email and my text messages. And different than the King Street, where we heard that some of the neighbors are in favor, I've not heard one person from Barron Way, Spectacle Pond Road, Cricket Lane, who's shown support for the project as it's been presented. And so people are, I think you heard a number of them last time. Concerns about wells, certainly. Those wells are very close. And so that's understood. And I think there's a sense that the train keeps rolling. We keep talking, but nothing seems to change. My hope is that there are places in this process where we are not only heard, but we feel we have been listened to. That hasn't yet occurred. We're hoping for that as a future. And then the other thing I might add is, if I've made a presentation to the planning board, which was basically saying, a troubling part of this is that when you go through a series of boards, starting with the Board of Selectmen, who, by the way, did approve stating this for recharge and for open space, and I voted for it at nothing, but then things changed, as they normally do in these processes. And we ended up with a more moderate development proposal, and people began to say, well, we could probably work with that. And then the next thing we know, we're up to 30 units. And most people would say it's overdevelopment. It's going, and there's a lot of tension right now in the neighborhood. You're gonna hear from neighbors in various ways over the next few weeks, I can guarantee you that. People on Spectacle Pond that have not been involved are now getting involved. People on what's the road across from Cricket? Whitetail. We're hearing more and more people that have just come out of the woodwork as this gets closer and closer. So that's a concern that there's a lot of neighbors that just feel uncertain. But getting back to the case of open space, I think there's a real problem in that I don't know what the definition of open space is. When we were at the selectmen's meeting, there were a lot of people that wanted to support the notion that we preserve some open space, and we were guaranteed, I think, in the process, somewhere between 3.5 and 4 acres, but 30%, I believe, was the promise. And the discussion was, well, they could be open space used to continue to farm, community gardens, other purposes, just open space. And what's happened is, I think it has come, what is that 3 acres of there has, I think, become a design element in an expensive community. We love design elements. I think they should be there. But it feels like the open space promised to us is becoming something else, not really accessible to us, not preserving. The notion was preservation. We're trying to preserve some aspect of this property. And when you put 30 units in there, you're not preserving anything. You're not preserving the chance for more recharge, which a real designated open space would do. There are animals that come down. I'm glad you mentioned animals and wildlife, because we have a lot of deer coming out of the woodlands, coming down to the water. Because what we mentioned at the selectmen's meeting is you've got this ecosystem, which includes the woods up the hill. You've got a field, open space, and then you've got water. That's ideal for a lot of different animals. You put 30 units in there, you've just sealed off the woodlands from the water that they go to. And you can see in the wintertime the tracks and the things. So we're doing real damage here. And I just want to make sure that this board understands that when we develop, we understand development is needed and necessary, but let's do it in a smart way. And I think if we were able to come back to some of that open space, it reduces some of the concerns of those neighbors. We have more spacing between the new and the old. We also, from an aesthetic standpoint, want the new and the old to blend much more than it is. This is sort of just a very different approach than what we have now. So those are those are the concerns, but I can tell you that there's a lot of heat right now and a lot of concern, and we're looking to you to help us address these issues and see if we can come up with a development that people all could sign off on. So I guess we are the dogs looking for some hamburger, but hopefully we get something.
He got
out of this.
Well, we appreciate your concern. The question, this is the Board of Health. You should bring it to the planning board.
We are.
You should bring it to the selectmen.
Well, he's
We
talking
only
about-
hear Board of Health. Everybody that comes here, they are welcome. If they have a piece of property, we have to comply, as long as they follow regulation. I appreciate what you're trying to say. I like to see Littleton as it is right now. But you have to understand that there's people your age, my age, that have no place to go. So they are trying to buy something smaller. So the house they have now, it goes to somebody that really needs it with children, so they can go to school in Littleton, because we have good schooling. But your point is very well taken. The question is, we have to adjust to a point. We can only support so many people in Littleton.
That's right.
They were predicting over 10,000. It's not going to go over 9,000. Mine may be 9,200. That'd be it, because there is no more land.
One of the things that, I share your concerns, thank you. But one of the things that we might be able to add to comments is integration of low impact development design elements in the design, and some sort of comment that we'd like to see that. And that could be included in I'm just thinking out loud, when we're talking about this outside review, that could be a focus of the review. Because you could get somebody who would take a hard look at that, and come up with ideas separate from the standard design team. And then that is not, does not cost a lot of money. So that, just something concrete, you know, to address, I mean, your concerns are bigger than that, and the migration corridors and, you're right, it's kind of hard for us.
As someone who has been through the process, and we started way back then with the selectmen, and it felt like we were promised certain things.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we do some development, but these things would be there.
Yeah,
Then as we go through each committee, we go, well, what happened to that? And where
yeah,
did
the
that go?
stovepiped.
And so it feels like, as people have used the term railroad, we're being railroaded into something we don't really want, and we haven't truly listened to.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be my.
So that would be, I mean, aside from like the bigger picture that you were talking about, that's something that we could include in our comments if we'd like to do that as a board.
I think what we're interested in is quality, and quality measured in many different ways.
Yeah.
Not just that the houses are well designed, but the whole thing fits in,
Yeah.
and we're dealing with some of those environmental issues and health issues.
Well, that's one way to do it is, and I think that I'd have to look a little harder, but I think given what's required, especially in the aquifer protection zone, but Mr. Field seemed open to the idea anyway, of trying to integrate low impact development design elements. That we're only making a comment, so we can make a recommendation for that.
In this letter from,
Yeah, but that's a
Or
standard manual, the thing is ancient, and what it would need is somebody to be look at it creatively, and come up with ideas for how it could be done. Because that manual's really old. It was like,
the town's low impact development and best practices,
Yeah.
management practices.
yep. Is that something the board might be interested in recommending?
I think it's a good idea.
I think we should stick with the Board of Health and get involved in too many different things. I think a motion should not be needed at the moment. Maybe we can just think about it later.
What do you think, Louise?
I'm not sure. I guess it has been reviewed. Maybe if they were to review it again and look at look at some aspects of environmental concern, and maybe, I know you're not going to want to reduce the number of units to your development, I'm sure, but I'm not sure what the answer is or how to word it to make everybody happy.
Well, this wouldn't make everybody happy. It would just be one little thing on low impact development. And so that's a way, when you were talking about water resources, that's a way to develop a site where there's certain ways you can develop a site that are more protective of water resources.
May I ask what an example of that would be?
Oh, rain gardens, and I think it has to be site specific.
Depending on trees and.
Yeah, increased vegetation, low impact landscaping.
That's one thing we were gonna do is provide buffer against Cricket Lane.
Yeah.
With some
So things
trees.
like that, so
Yeah.
what that would be you'd have an outside person, outside your design team to come in and do kind of a SWOT analysis on it. Which addresses the concern. I mean, we can't, we're just making comments here.
Comments.
Yeah, no,
We're
we're
making
all just
comments.
talking.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and
What is, Valley Way, does it have town water over
Half of it has town water to Ross's.
so it would only be,
Or is that the turn?
that, what I'm talking about is
Environmental,
just
yeah.
low impact
Environmental.
development. So it gets
It doesn't
integrated into the design.
Mhm.
It maximizes impervious surfaces and things like that.
Okay.
So it protects water quality and quantity, which is what the gentleman was talking about.
I would, we can entertain the motion
won't hold the details.
Just
Thank you very much for your time.
Beauty time, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Are we done? I
James?
gotta eat.
Oh, you can go, yeah. We'll do some stuff while you're in Raleigh. Oh, so we need a motion.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Need a motion in a second.
See you later.
Thank you.
Make a motion, as Aaron has stated, to incorporate some low impact development study.
You're going overboard.
So I'm
We're gonna-
thinking
you-
of, well,
you-
we're gonna make a motion and we're gonna second it.
Well, I'm not
and-
gonna second it.
Okay, and then
You
we're gonna
guys
vote
don't
on
go too far out.
It's just a
new.
comment to-
It's not a comment, it's just leave it alone.
So add a review.
We're here to do Board of Health situation,
Yeah.
not to impact anybody else.
So Board of Health is water resources,
You
people
guys all
drinking the
knew it, you
water.
don't understand.
Okay,
You're gonna get in trouble.
so we have a motion?
Yeah, what exactly
Um,
are we proposing?
Proposing that, they could consider adding a review for low-impact develop, to maximize, integration of low-impact development principles.
The
into
planning, this is a
design.
planning job, planning department that makes those decisions, not the
So
Board
we're
of
just
Health.
making a comment to have the
Well, even
planning
the
board
comment is
consider
a-
it, Gino.
It's not
We're not making
feasible.
any rules, we're not changing anything, we're just having them
We're
consider
going-
it.
Just
Lower-
that it's a
lower-
concern
Lower
of-
impact could
State-
mean
step the
denser
line.
development that keeps more of the
More open
environment
space.
intact, more open space.
And it's gonna be an issue that comes up with the butters anyway, so
Right, you don't need a motion, you don't need nothing, just go with the system. Jim, you have any comment?
I don't.
I appreciate it, thank you so much. I'd like, if you have anything else, if you have anything else, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. I have to go home.
So somebody made a motion for that, and we're in the middle of a motion, Gino. Somebody wanna second that? To add the LID review? To recommend addition to the LID review? We have a motion for it on the table.
I'll second it, but I think it's gonna, be brought up by butters. More discussion will be brought up
Right.
by butters, so
Yeah, correct.
I'll second it, but
I think there'll be a lot of conversation about it the whole way through.
yeah.
So do we want, so we have a motion and a second. So all in favor of adding a recommendation to add a review for a low-impact development to address concerns on water quality? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So all opposed?
Aye.
Aye,
Okay, so
I'm
passed.
opposed.
It's
The
just-
water
it's just a
department makes
comment.
an analysis about the water
Okay.
quality. The little water department make the decision whether the water is good or not good, so it's not our department. You guys going over the line. Anthony, you got anything to say?
I don't, Jamie.
So that, does anyone else in the room have anything to say on those two projects that we just talked about? Because we're gonna go back to the minutes.
Can't believe it.
You got a long night.
Yeah.
Just thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
I just wanted to ask a question. Have you thought about and talked to the planning board or, zoning folks about doing something denser and keeping it, the
Well,
environmental
the-
protection on the,
The regulation's designed for density, and that's how you can afford to put the affordable units in there.
but it's not in the senior residential bylaw. Is that the problem?
It's in there. That's why they're allowed to do 4
per.
cottages per acre, 8 townhouses,
Right.
11, whatever it was, I'm not sure, So, you get to the point where it's not worth doing.
Hmm.
So
Do the
do we want affordable
townhouses?
houses for the seniors or
Yeah.
don't?
No, we do.
Yeah, well,
Does it make sense to do more townhouses like outside of the?
I don't wanna do townhouses because I want everything on one level.
That's what seniors are looking
And
for.
I want them to have their own space. I don't want them to have
Shared
sharing
walls. Right.
walls. Yeah. Their own garage,
Mhm.
And a lot of that neighborhood is that way. If you go up Cricket Lane, some of the older homes are kind of like that.
So we'll close that discussion, I guess, and then move on to the minutes.
Okay.
Go back to minutes.
We're gonna meet next week. I'm sorry, I need to really read this one with a fine tooth
Yeah.
comb.
Okay.
So,
Do you wanna just say we read two of them, you wanna
Yeah.
be done?
yeah, is that okay? Everybody good with that?
I wasn't here for those.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
it's just you
Yeah.
and
Because we're all
Gina, we have to
backed
look
up,
at it.
so, I promise, well, this one's just me and you. This is the one in
Yeah.
Roxbury, so I just wanna be really careful on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blur.
Yeah. So, just for the next meeting, everybody, look at the
We're-
proposed
you guys all set?
regulations if you
Yeah,
have.
All right.
I'm gonna go over Matt's and he.
What's his address?
Yeah, right.
It's on the
What's she-
sign
what's-
sheet.
What's she making, what's he making for dinner? Not her, him.
Oh, that'd be a surprise, no?
Whatever you have.
We're all
It's a
in.
dinner.
So,
Thank
review
you.
the proposed regs.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye,
Thank you.
thanks,
No.
and,
We can't.
and the minutes, all the minutes. No, for the
Minutes.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the minutes, which I know there are a lot of minutes in me.
Yeah, well, I think they're all sent to us, so I think we'll be all caught up once we do that.
Yeah,
We haven't gotten last week's yet. We don't get that until
okay.
right before. We'll probably get that this weekend, right?
So, Gino, did you wanna make a motion to
Motion to adjourn,
All,
I appreciate it.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I gotta take my medicine.